Xenon Racer was a game that stood out during our upcoming games list for this week. The futuristic racer, with some pretty striking visuals, had caught the eye of many, judging by the comments section for that video, and I'm happy to be able to bring you a review of it today. Will it deliver on that early promise, or is it destined for last place? I'm Glenn for SwitchUp, thank you to the developers for the review copy, and now, let's find out. The premise for Xenon Racer is that in the near future of 2030, the Racing Federation is looking to take to the skies and transition to flying vehicles. In the interim season before this happens, a new championship is set up with vehicles using xenon gas. This one season only championship will take place on the streets of some famous cities to see who will lift the prize. Now, it's not often that I discuss visuals and gameplay together, but I believe it's quite appropriate for this game. Let's start with the most obvious point. Does this game look like the trailer and the screenshots that are on the Nintendo eShop? Well, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so let's have a look, shall we?
PRS's auxiliary batteries ready.
Quite a contrast, isn't there? Oh, and FIFA 2009 called, it wants its crowd back. The lighting effects, the stunning environments and the sense of speed in that trailer, the trailer on the Nintendo eShop itself, don't forget, are not even close to representing what the game looks like. There are no light or shadow effects, or at least not to the standard that you've been led to believe. Puddles on the road just sit there and do not react as they should when a car races through them, but the biggest issue with the graphics has to be the quite terrible pop-up. Everything from traffic lights to road signs to billboards to trees to entire buildings pop into view at the last moment, almost as your car is passing by them a lot of the time, and not only does it completely break the immersion, it can be incredibly distracting early on too. Early into my first race on the downtown Tokyo track, a barrier took so long to load onto the screen that I assumed I was going straight ahead, only for it to then appear right before me and I crashed straight into it. The realistic tone of the screenshots is nowhere to be seen. The graphical style doesn't look like much of a step up from games you would have found on a PlayStation Vita, albeit at a higher resolution. Night tracks fare a little better, with this setting making some of the lighting effects stand out a bit more, but that's about as good as it gets. Then there is the performance. Now, if you are anything like me, you saw this game on the eShop and immediately thought to yourself that this might be an F-Zero substitute, a lightning-fast, futuristic racer that sees you living on a prayer as you take corners at breakneck speeds. While I am certainly no expert at identifying frame rates, I would suspect that this is running just below 30 frames per second. A fairly consistent mid-20s would be my estimation, hardly the thrill ride that the concept calls for. On top of that, there are also some fairly lengthy loading times. In handheld mode, there is a noticeable blur to the visuals when racing, to the point where I was struggling to make out which way the neon red arrows that adorn the side of some of the tracks to show you which way to go were actually indicating. In terms of gameplay, there are quite a few modes available. You have the Xenon Championship, a quick race mode, split screen local multiplayer, online multiplayer, and edge mode, which is basically a time trial mode. The championship mode follows a fairly similar style to some of the Ridge Racer games of old. Each small championship will consist of a few racetracks, with an overall standing having to be achieved at the end of it in order to unlock the next set of tracks. You will find that certain tracks repeat themselves as you play through, albeit sometimes they are reversed. Winning the championships unlocks new parts for your car so that you can customize them. You can add these new parts in the garage, and each new part will affect your car's performance in areas such as top speed, acceleration, drifting or handling. You can also recolor your car and even change the effect of your ERS, which is your boost. For example, allowing it to charge quicker but reducing the duration it lasts when it's used. In terms of the racing itself, you race against 7 other vehicles in a variety of tracks set in futuristic versions of real-life cities. There is very little unlocked from the start, with just a couple of car variations and a couple of tracks. You will need to succeed at the game if you want to see all it has to offer. The tracks are quite corner heavy, with a lot of 90-degree turns, with the main issue with this being that a lot of the corners seem to creep up on you, leaving you little reaction time to take them properly. In order to make any real progress in Xenon, you will need to master drifting. You will not be able to win races by brute force, and this is mainly down to the damage system. In the bottom left corner of the screen is your damage meter, and every time you hit another car or crash into a turn, this will decrease from its start point of 100% until it reaches 0. When this happens, you are at max damage and your car will be repositioned on the track and your damage meter reset back to 100. Although your car is repositioned almost instantly, in game time you will probably have dropped about 4 or 5 places by the time you are ready to continue. Personally, I didn't care for this damage system, as I felt that it causes the races to become a little too stop-start. I can appreciate that it adds a level of risk and reward to the game, and some people may feel it really complements the gameplay, but I didn't particularly enjoy it. As mentioned earlier, Xenon also employs a boost system named the ERS. In the bottom right of the screen there are 3 batteries. These can be filled either by drifting around the track or by driving over these charger points. Each battery filled earns you 1 boost, which can be used at any time. Local multiplayer is a split screen affair as already mentioned, and although online multiplayer is also available, I could not find a race whilst preparing for this review, and therefore unfortunately I cannot comment on its performance. There is nothing inherently wrong with the gameplay in Xenon, it's just a little underwhelming. Factor in some very disappointing visuals, exacerbated by the decision to use artwork on the Eshop page that is in no way indicative of the actual product, and things start to unravel fairly quickly. The developers have contacted us to say that they are preparing a patch to iron out a lot of these problems, although it's not clear as to whether they are talking about the graphical fidelity, the performance, both or neither. I can only review the game in front of me, the one that's actually about to be sold to the public, not the one that may one day materialise, and gameplay receives 13 out of 20, whereas visuals receive 11 out of 20. Your car controls fairly heavily in Xenon. I don't know why, but I was expecting a more weightless, futuristic feel to the vehicles, but this is not the case. They almost feel a little sluggish at times. ZR is your acceleration button, and you can also perform the drift move by tapping this button when turning into a corner. The same effect can be achieved by using the handbrake button, which is assigned to B. Drifting does not feel quite as intuitive as in other similar racing games, and it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it does feel fairly satisfying once you get the hang of it. Once you have filled enough of your ERS meter to earn yourself a boost, this can be used by pressing the A button. Controls receive 13 out of 20. The audio in Xenon Racer comprises of a lot of high tempo music. There is an announcer at the start of each race who sounds like he's straight out of the 90s, which is a strange choice for a game set in the future.
3, 2, 1, let's go!
It just sounds a little bit cheesy, if you know what I mean. The vehicles themselves have an unfortunate hairdryer sound to them, and frustratingly this noise becomes quite obnoxious after a while, and it drowns out the music too. Various sound bites play during the race, informing you that the ERS meter is charged or letting you know how many laps are left. It's all fairly standard stuff in all honesty, and audio receives 13 out of 20. Xenon Racer costs £44.99 or $49.99, and I'm sorry, but this price is completely unacceptable. Not only does the game look absolutely nothing like the promotional material, but the performance is disappointing, and the gameplay, while perfectly serviceable, is also extremely uninspiring. There is a physical version of the game, and I have seen it on sale for around £36, which is much better value than the eShop price, but in all honesty, even this is too much money until a pretty hefty patch arrives. The high tier price in no way matches the rushed nature of the product as it currently stands, and value receives 5 out of 20. To conclude, Xenon Racer commits just about every gaming no-no in the book. Promotional material that does not reflect the actual product, a rushed product releasing that is in major need of patching, and an eye-wateringly high price to boot. It's practically everything that is wrong with modern day gaming. The game itself works and certainly isn't broken, but the poor visuals and performance mar the experience, as well as the other problems mentioned. Xenon Racer receives a SwitchUp score of 55%. Many thanks as always everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. I'm sure a patch will come, and to be fair, it may well fix a lot of these issues, but this game is on sale now, and it's on sale for a lot of money, and I think it's important that people know what it is they're buying if indeed they choose to do so. Patches are great, but if the price stays the same at launch, then people need to know what it is they're buying. Anyway, a quick thank you to our patrons as always for supporting us, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Thank you for 25,000 subscribers that we hit fairly recently, and until the next one, happy gaming.